why he left for Jamnagar from Bhujnagar, although he already had the divine vision of Lord Sri Krishna in Brajamandal. He finds himself in his meditative state. So despite that, we said that he is still continuing his pursuits because he has yet to find answers to his questions. He doesn't know yet who his soul belongs to. He doesn't know the reason why he came to this world in the first place. And what is that abode from which it came to this world? He doesn't know anything about the reason behind the creation of this world, among other questions that he has. He is 26 years old. That is when he starts the Bhagavata discourse with Kanjivata, one of the Bhagavata scholar. So he goes to Kanjivata in Syamji's Mandir, in Krishna Mandir, in Jamnagar. If you go to Jamnagar today, it is pretty close to Nautanpuri Dham, one of the most renowned pilgrimage site of Sri Krishna Pranami faith. It is where the seed of Sri Krishna Pranami faith was sowed. So as Devchandraji starts listening, going to the Bhagavata discourse, he is so attentive, he is so inquisitive, he asks questions, he responds to the questions of Kanjivata, he memorizes the teachings, he memorizes the verses. He is one of the best disciples that Kanjivata has. So there are people that are certainly not happy with Devchandraji and seemingly preferential treatment to him, because it so happens that when you have a student who pays attention to you, a teacher naturally inclines to go to that student. So the Chaudharis, the other listeners of Bhagavata discourse, are not happy with how they are treated, although Kanjivata is fair in the treatment of all his listeners. And we talked about yesterday that Kanjivata does not start the Bhagavata discourse until Devchandraji comes. And sometimes, for some reason, he gets there a little late, but until Devchandraji comes and gets seated on his seat, he does not start the discourse. So one day, these other listeners, the wealthy businessman, retired business people, they ask question to Kanjivata, why do not you treat us fairly? And Kanjivata wonders, what did I do? They say, you do not start the discourse until Devchandraji gets here. We are actually the one who supports you financially. The temple runs on the donation that we give. So why is it that you do not start the Bhagavata discourse? Kanjivata says, I do not do it for money. I do not do it for monetary gains. I do it for the Lord. But I make sure that Devchandraji gets here first before I start the discourse, because if not, then he would ask me these questions again and again. He asked me to repeat the verses. He waits after the discourse is over and asks me to review what he missed earlier in the class. As such, I do not start the discourse. He is not the one who gives me donations because he has nothing to offer to me, at least monetarily, but he is the most diligent, he is the most disciplined, he is the most inquisitive disciples among all of you. So they are upset with the response of Kanjivata. Do you think we do not pay attention to your discourse? Kanjivata says, prove me otherwise. Can any of you tell me what was discussed yesterday? What verse that we were discussing yesterday? What canto it was? What chapter it was? So none of them could give answer to that. And Devchandraji gets there a little late, and before he gets to his seat, Kanjivata asked the question, Devchandra, do you recall? Do you remember what was discussed yesterday? And Devchandraji utters the name of the verse. He utters the verse, gives the name of the chapter, number of the chapter, and everything. He explains everything pretty much what Kanjivata said yesterday. And he points to these other audiences and asks them, do you have anything to say? So their ego is hurt and they want to take revenge. Chidrako dhundat rahe. So they are looking for mistakes of Devchandraji so that they can take a revenge for what they had to endure today. Marga ko pave nahi, but they do not find any mistakes. Devchandraji is such a disciplined disciple. He is such an inquisitive soul. He is such a relentless aspirant. So they do not find anything against Devchandraji. Mahamati Prananath states that Devchandraji does not want any revenge. He does not have any ill feeling to anyone, although he is not treated well by the other listeners of Bhagavata Discourse. As Mahamati Prananath says, "Koi deta kasala tumko tuma bhala chahiyo tinna sarata dham ki na chhodiyo surata piche firao jinna." If someone gives you troubles, you still wish good luck for them. You do not wish bad for them. Because Mahamati Prananath says, "So teta hi boliya jo gaya jahan lo cha." People have different demeanors, different manners, different attitudes. And it is all based on their upbringings and many things in between. So people may not always treat you right. People may not always treat you fairly. You may have to endure their criticism, unnecessary criticisms. But when you think of that all the time, if you hold grudges against that, then you lose the time that you could spend in the memory of God, in remembering the God, in glorifying God, in chanting his mantras and all that. So Mahamati Prananath says, instead of thinking about that, holding grudges against those that do not treat you right, what you need to do is spend that time in recalling the promises that you made to the Lord Supreme, that you would never forget him. His abode in yourself. Sarata dham ki na chhodiyo surata piche firao jinna. And your spirit should always be directed towards the Lord Supreme. Because if you waste time holding grudges. So there was one motivational speaker. He was with there were hall full of students, and he was giving them lectures about how to be happy in life. He said, he held a bottle on his hand, a water bottle, and he asked the students, what happens if I hold this bottle for 5 minutes? Everyone said, nothing will happen because it barely weighs 16 ounces. It does not weigh much, so nothing will happen. He asked again, what if I hold this bottle for 1 hour? He said, your hand would start to ache. Your hand would start to hurt. And he asked the question again, what if I hold the bottle for 5 days straight? And they said, your hand could be paralyzed. Similarly, if you hold grudges against people, if you hold grudges against people for their seemingly mistreatment of you, then what happens is you hurt yourself. There would always be people around you who do not think nice of you. Behind the back, they would always backbite. Behind the back, they would always talk bad about you. And that is the reality of the world. In the front, when they are in front of you, they may appreciate you outwardly. They may talk good about you. They may glorify you for what you're doing. But behind the back, most of the people would be criticizing you, commenting bad about you. And that is the reality. So Devchandraji, despite Dit Chaudhary, this wealthy businessman, criticizing him, is not willing to think bad about them. He is not holding any grudges against them. Even Jesus Christ, when he was being crucified, he didn't ask for the revenge from God. What he said was, "Oh God, forgive them. They are ignorant because they do not know what they are doing." Dear Sundar Saji, this is the reality of life. When you hold grudges against people, it does not hurt them, it hurts us. And if they are mistreating us, if anything, they are the one to suffer, not us. So why hold grudges against them and hurt ourselves for their mistakes? Devchandraji Maharaj is not worried about what they feel about him or what they talk about him in his back. But they are looking for his mistakes. And it so turns out that they found one weakness. The weakness is that Devchandraji fasts on the 12th day of the lunar calendar, Dwadasi Tithi. And he eats food. He does not fast on the 11th day that we call Ekadasi. So most of the Hindus that believe in Vedic scriptures, they fast on the 11th day of the lunar calendar, on the Ekadasi Tithi. But they eat on the 12th. So they realize that Devchandraji is making a huge mistake here. Because none of the Vedic scriptures give credence to that. None of the Vedic scriptures tell that people should fast on the 12th day, not on the 11th. So as soon as they found out that Devchandraji does what nobody else does, they come to Kanjivat screaming with joy, with pride, because they finally found a reason to undermine Devchandraji and his discipline and his relentless pursuit. So they go to Kanjivata on the Bhagavata Discourse and they start questioning the judgment of Kanjivata. Oh, Vattaji, you say that Devchandraji is the most disciplined. You say that Devchandraji is the most inquisitive, most diligent of your disciples. But see what we found. He fasts on the 12th day of the lunar calendar and eats on the 11th day of the lunar calendar. How is it that he is your best disciple when he acts against the Vedic teachings, Vedic practices? Kanjivata knows Devchandraji really well. He tells them that there must be a reason to why Devchandraji fasts on the 12th, not on the 11th. There must be a reason. I will ask him as soon as he gets here, but I know for sure he must have some valid reasons. They are anxiously waiting for Devchandraji's arrival because they are getting a chance today to undermine him, to criticize him. They finally found the mistake of Devchandraji. As soon as Devchandraji comes, every one of them are joyful. They begin pointing fingers at him and they ask him, Devchandra, give us the name of the scripture that tells you that you should fast on the 12th, not on the 11th. Because all of us, according to the Vedic scriptures, we fast on the 11th day because we are worshipping Goddess Ekadasi. So every Hindu there is fast on the 11th. Give us the reference to which, give us the reference that tells you, give us the verse from the scripture where it is stated that we should fast on 12th day of the lunar calendar instead. Devchandraji comes to the discourse and says, सो भागवत द्वादशी को तुम नहीं वांचा, तब में आकार को आहार न देवता. बोलो श्री सद्गुरु महाराज की जय. So Devchandraji does not deny that he does not fast on the 12th. He says, yes, I fast on the 12th because I do not get to listen to the Bhagavata discourse. Because my soul is not fed, I do not feed my body. Because I exist because of my soul. I exist because there is life inside me. So long as my soul is not fed, I do not feed my body. Because the soul is why I exist. And Bhattaji does not do the Bhagavata discourse on the 12th day of the Bhagavata discourse because 12th day of the lunar calendar is when Sukadev Muni, the first one to start the Bhagavata discourse, the son of Vedavyasa, who compiled Bhagavad Mahapurana. So Shrutaji explains the Bhagavata written by his father Vedavyasa for the first time. So to commemorate the day of Sukadev Muni, the Bhagavata discourse is not done on the 12th day of the lunar calendar. So Devchandraji says, since the Bhagavata discourse does not happen on the 12th day, I do not feed my body, I fast on that day. And I just wonder why you fast on the 11th. Devchandraji says, I just wonder why you do that. Because the day you get to receive the offerings made to Sri Krishna, the sanctified offerings, the prasad of Sri Krishna, when you get to consume the prasad of Lord Sri Krishna, the Lord Supreme, on the 11th day of the lunar calendar, when soul is fed, and when you get the offerings of Sri Krishna on the 11th, why do you have to fast? Devchandraji says, Kota Ekadasi Ekashitake Tullena Avat. The millions of fastings, on 11th day of the lunar calendar of Ekadasi goddess Ekadasi, is not comparable to one grain of that offering made to the Lord Supreme. And it surprises me, says Devchandraji, Sri Parabrahma Leela Rasaka Yehajo Grantha Bhagavata Tinako Shunaki Swargaka Esava Sadhana. The Bhagavata discourse, the Bhagavad Mahapuran, the scripture, Bhagavad Mahapuran is full of the divine sports of Aksharatit Sri Krishna, of the Lord Supreme. Bhagavata discourse is all about the Leelas of Lord Sri Krishna. And it should be for eternal salvation. And you're listening to the Bhagavata discourse, and your prayers are to receive the blessings of heaven. You are doing it to get to heaven, the perishable place, to lokas above this earth. Devchandraji says. In fact, we talked about it the other day on our Beetak discourse. Lord Brahmaji had to spend thousands of years praying to Lord Sri Krishna to have the dust of the footstep of the cowmaids of Braja, because once he wanted to test if Lord Sri Krishna was indeed the Lord Supreme, he kidnaps the kids of Braja, he kidnaps the cows from Braja, and Sri Krishna realizes it and creates equal number of cows and the son of Gopian, the kids from Braja. And when he realizes that, when Brahmaji realizes that he made a mistake, too big of a mistake already, he wants to have a darsana of Sri Krishna. And since Sri Krishna is not interested in that because he was tested by Lord Brahmaji wants to get the offerings made to Sri Krishna in the Gopiyan. And Sri Krishna tells him that the food that is being offered today to you, please eat it all cleanly and do not wash the dishes, because Brahmaji wanted to be a fish to have the prasada of Sri Krishna. Sasti Varsa Sahasrani Maya Taptam Tapapura. 60,000 years of prayers, he does not still get the prasada of Sri Krishna. Dear Sandarsadji. So Devchandraji said, my soul is fed on the 12th. And my soul is not fed on the 12th, it's fed on the 11th, because the Bhagavata discourse happens on the 11th day. And I get to consume the prasad that is offered to Lord Sri Krishna. He says, why should I fast that day? Because my soul is fed and I'm getting the prasada of Lord Sri Krishna. But on the 12th, my soul is not fed and I do not get to consume the prasad of Sri Krishna. And I do not feed my body. Kanjivatta was so impressed with what Devchandraji said. He was truly impressed by the sagacity of Devchandraji Maharaj, the wisdom of Devchandraji Maharaj. He asked the question to these Chaudharis, these wealthy businessmen, the other listeners. He asked them, do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say? Why he fasts? Do you have any more questions? Do you have anything to say against him anymore? Jawab na aaya kahun ko dhanya dhanya kaya. They said nothing, they had nothing to say. Instead, they began glorifying Devchandra. Dhanya Devchandra, you are so wise. And they started glorifying and appreciating his answers, his response, and his practice. As Devchandraji continues listening to the discourse of Bhagavata from Kanjivatta, in the discourse on the eternal Leelas of Braja and Ras, he feels so engrossed in the teaching. The tears start flowing from his eyes continuously. He doesn't know the reason yet, but it feels as if he was the one participating in those eternal sports with Sri Krishna. So many events unfold during these 14 years that Devchandraji listens to Bhagavata discourse with Kanjivatta. Imagine 14 years, 9 hours a day in the same place, same seat that he sits. 14 years of Bhagavata discourse. We become impatient when we have to sit in a place for half hour. We have to play our mobile. We have to constantly navigate to our Facebook page and things of that nature, even when we go to a satsang. Devchandraji Maharaj listens to Bhagavata discourse 14 years, 9 hours a day. He knows each and every verses. He knows the meaning of it. He memorizes. He can recollect each of those verses, the meaning of them, each canto, the content, the meaning, the deeper underlying meaning of those verses. He knows it all. Yo 14 barasa nishtha banda vachana grahe sahab sara ya upara kripa bhai taku karanachar. After 14 years of disciplined listening to the Bhagavata discourse, Kai japa tapa kiye vratanema seva sarupa saneha. Then, after 14 years, is the age of 40, Lord Sri Krishna appears before him and all his questions are answered. But before the fruit of his efforts are granted by the Lord Supreme, he goes through a tough test. We go to college, we go to universities, all through the year, all through the semesters. We study for 3 months, 4 months. And at the end of the semester, we have to give the exam. We have to participate in the exam. So many contents are covered, so many chapters are covered, and questions are given from never know where, from where. And that 3 hours of test determines whether you succeed in your class. Devchandraji has been looking for answers to his questions for the last 35 years. At the age of 5, the questions started popping in his mind. Who am I? Where I came from? Why did God create the universe? At the age of 40, the final test happens. He starts having fever. His body weakens. He doesn't feel like eating anything. It gets progressively worse. He becomes weak and frail. It has been days, but he does not discontinue his rule that he goes to Bhagavata Discourse every day. Despite his weakness, despite the sickness, he still continues attending the Bhagavata Discourse. Because it is the thirsty who goes to fetch the water. The river, the ocean, the pond, the well does not come to us to give us water. It is that the one who is a seeker who pursues. The river goes to the ocean, not otherwise. The ocean does not come to the river. So Devchandraji continues going to Bhagavata Discourse. His parents are worried. His mom and dad. They call a doctor, well versed in traditional medicines that we call Vaidya. They call him, and after he checks Devchandraji thoroughly, he realizes that he's suffering from typhoid. He gives medicine to him and tells him that you cannot go out. You need to rest. You cannot go out in the wind, because if you do, you may not survive. Devchandraji's parents quickly intervene and say that, oh doctor, he's gonna quickly leave for the Bhagavata Discourse. He's not the one who stays home, take rest and things of that nature. He continues going out to the Bhagavata Discourse, to the Krishna temple, Syamji Mandir, to listen to the Bhagavata Discourse by Kanji Bhatta. The Vaidya says, if that is the case, what is the use of giving him any medicine? Because he won't survive. So instead of me taking the blame for giving you the medicine and not healing him, I would rather not give him the medicine. His parents said, if that's the case, we'll lock him in. We'll close the door from outside and ask him to rest at home. We won't let him go to the Bhagavata Discourse. We won't let him go outside. But they promptly left. He leaves Devchandraji's place, feeling confident that they won't let him go outside. They lock the door from outside. They stay outside. Devchandraji wants to go to the Bhagavata Discourse as always, but the door is locked. He begs his parents, Dad, can you please open the door? It's the time for me to go to the discourse. Mom, can you at least listen to me? Can you open the door for me? I understand you guys are worried about my health, but It is not important whether I'm healthy or not, whether I'm sick or not. What matters to me is my rule, my niyam, my practice of going to Bhagavata Discourse. Parents from outside say, Dharma rakhe to deha hai. Deha rakhe hue dharma, say his parents. If you're healthy, if your body is well, then you can do religious practices. You can meditate and things of that nature. But if you are not healthy, if you do not have body, if you are dead, then you cannot do any religious practices. So first, take care of your health. Once you are healthy, you can go. We have always let you go. So we will when you are healthy. But you are too unwell, son. You're too sick to go to Bhagavata Discourse. So stop begging. Stop asking us. Devchandraji instead says from inside, Dharma rakhe to deha hai, ye jawab dete yon kar. It is only when we preserve the Dharma, it is only when we practice spirituality, then the body gets its significance. Because everyone, every human being, every life in this world does the things that they wish, right? Birth, death, reproduction, sleep, eat, those things. But the life is meaningless until we practice spirituality. We listen to the plea of our soul. So, please, let me go. Don't worry about my body, because my spirituality is for my soul. My spiritual pursuit is what my soul wants. I'm doing what my soul desires. I do not care much about my body. They do not open the door. He pleads. Devchandraji pleads. Devchandraji cries. He is impatient because the Bhagavata Discourse has already started. And he knows what happens if he gets there late. The Chaudharis would not be happy. And Kanjivata won't start the discourse. So he is causing a great deal of inconvenience to everyone else. So he says, Re murkho mein marne ka nahi, mera dekhoge aakar, uta meri atma jayegi aur nahi vichar. If you do not open the door, then my soul would attend the discourse. My body, you can lock my body here, but my soul would be there listening to the Bhagavata Discourse. They won't still listen. So the back and forth happens, the questioning, counter arguments happen. And after a long discussion, Devchandraji passes out. Mother is worried. She opens the door. Khamma, khamma, mata kahi. She asks for help because her only son is unconscious, lying unconscious in his room. After a few minutes, Devchandraji gains consciousness. He becomes conscious and he dresses up and begins walking towards Shyamji's Mandir for the Bhagavata Discourse. His parents give up. They realize that he's not going to quit. He's not going to quit going to Bhagavata Discourse, regardless. He cares less about his life. He cares less whether he would survive or not, but he wants to continue. He wants to continue listening to the Bhagavata Discourse. His father goes along with Devchandra. He follows him so that just in case he falls, just in case he becomes unconscious again, he can at least help him. And he prays to Lord Sri Krishna. Oh, Sri Krishna, he is yours now. If you want to save him, save him. If this is the end of his life, so be it. I surrender unto you. I give my son to you to take care of. Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas chintayantyapo mam ye jana paryupasate tesam nitya viyuktanam yogashema mahapi. Those who are exclusively devoted to me, I will rescue them from each difficult situations. As Mahamati Prananath also says, Tehiki ka araja pahunchata hai jo bhejiye paakatila. Those prayers made with pure heart are heard by the Lord Supreme. So, the grace of Sri Krishna gradually helps Devchandraji recover from typhoid. He gradually recovers. Dina 10-15 हुए कथा सुनत है काना तहाँ आए दीदार हुआ तुमको मेरी है पहचाना. After 10-15 days, after he recovers, he is graced by the Lord Supreme Sri Krishna. But before it happens, let me give you a backstory of how Sri Krishna appears to Devchandraji. So, Devchandraji Maharaj is listening to the Bhagavata Discourse for the last 14 years. He's okay with all the stories of Bhagavata, but he gets stuck at one point. It so happens that in Bhagavata Discourse, in Bhagavata Mahapurana, it is stated that when Sukadev Muni was explaining the eternal Ras Leela to King Parikshit, before he begins explaining the Ras Leela, he asked Parikshit that, ask me any questions you have, because I'm going to explain to you the eternal Leela of Ras, the eternal Leela of Sri Krishna with the cow maids in eternal Vrindavan. It is the Leela of the Lord Supreme with his souls. And for that, I have to be in a deeper meditative state. I don't want you to disturb when I'm explaining all of this. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Parikshit says, I don't have any questions. So Sukadev Muni goes into deeper meditative state and begins explaining the eternal Leela of Ras. So Sri Krishna plays the flute and all the souls get to eternal Vrindavana, and Sri Krishna inviting all those souls and start dancing and engaging them in eternal sports. And while he's explaining the eternal Leela of Ras, King Parikshit interrupts Sukadev Muni. He says, Sutaji, oh my spiritual master, I have a question. As you explained earlier, यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहं परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. As you said earlier, that God, Vishnu, incarnates when there is the destruction of dharma, there is the decay in righteousness, there is the decay in virtues. He incarnates again and again, taking different forms. Here, you are saying that Sri Krishna is the Vishnu incarnate, and he is doing the Leelas with the wives of Gop. He is dancing with somebody else's wives. How is it the preservation of Dharma? The Gopi, the cowmaids, are the daughter-in-laws. They are the mothers. They are the wives of Braj, of those people of Braj. So how by doing that is it preserving the Dharma? How by dancing with them is he preserving righteousness and virtues? It does not seem to me that he is doing the right thing. Can you please explain? Sukadev Muni is interrupted and he says to Parikshit, "Oh Parikshit, you ask such a lowly question to me. You ask such a worldly material question to me. The Sri Krishna is the Lord not only of those cowmaids, but of their husbands. Whole of the world is the Lord of everyone. It is the Leela of Lord with his souls." Parikshit instantly regrets interrupting Sukadev Muni. He was explaining up until the disappearance of Sri Krishna from Ras. Then Parikshit asked Sukadev Muni to continue. In Bhagavad Mahapurana, the description of the disappearance of Sri Krishna is there, and it is stated that it is because the cowmaids or the gopiya send him away from them, send him away from them, and their ego. And Radharani asked Sri Krishna to carry her with him. So it is the reason why Sri Krishna left and disappeared, say Bhagavad Mahapurana and those explaining the Bhagavad Mahapurana. So what happened afterwards, after Sri Krishna disappeared? The events after Sri Krishna's disappearance cannot be found in Bhagavad Mahapurana. So Kanjivata goes up until the disappearance of Sri Krishna and says that it is due to their ego that Sri Krishna disappears, their ego in their devotion, ego in their love for Sri Krishna. There should be no ego in between the lovebirds, in between Lord and the souls. And that is how the Bhagavata discourse ends. So Devchandraji asked a question to Kanjivata. Guruji, I do not have any question. I do not have any question about the integrity. I do not have any question about the decency. I do not have any question about the intention of Lord Sri Krishna. Can you please tell me what happened after Sri Krishna disappeared from eternal Vrindavan? What happened? And Kanjivata says, "Oh Devachandra, how would I know? How would I know what Sukadev Muni would have told had Parikshit not disturbed him, interrupt him? I would not know, because I explain what's there in the book of Bhagavad. I do not know what was in Sukadev Muni's mind." Devachandraji asked Kanjivata, "Then what should I do? Because I'm really bothered by not finding what happened afterwards." Kanjivata gives suggestion that if you call Sukadev Muni yourself, if you call him out and he appears and answers the question, he may have the answer. So Devchandraji Maharaj remembers Sukadev Muni, calls him out, and Sukadev Muni appears. And Sukadev Muni tells Devachandra, "I do not know what happened after Sri Krishna disappeared. I would not know that. It so happened that I would not know what was about to happen, and Parikshit asked the question at the same time. Because I was not explaining, it was Lord Supreme through me explaining the event of Ras. So I do not really know. I do not really know." Devchandraji asked Sukadev Muni, "Then what shall I do? I really want to know what happened after Sri Krishna disappeared." Vedavyasji, after creating 4 Vedas, 4 Upaved, 108 Upanishads, 18 Puranas and all that, 17 Puranas, was not happy with his compilation. He was just not happy. Something was missing. So Naradji, the son of Brahmaji, comes to him one day and tells him, Oh Vedvyasi, you haven't done a right thing. With all these scriptures glorifying different gods in different scriptures, you are confusing humanity even more. In Puranas, in Vishnu Puranas, you are singing the glory of Lord Vishnu. In Shiva Purana, you are singing the glory of Lord Shiva. In Devi Bhagavad, in all those scriptures, you are singing the glory of the goddesses. So people would be confused. What is your compilation? You are not doing the right thing. And Vedvyasi asked Naradji, what shall I do? So Naradji says to Vedvyasi, compile a scripture that includes the Leela of the Lord Supreme Sri Krishna. And that is when the Bhagavad Mahapurana is created. Dazana miti tina vyashaki piche udayo Bhagavata sara, says Mahamati. After compiling all the scriptures, Vedas is still not happy, but when Bhagavata Discourse is compiled, the Bhagavad Mahapurana is compiled, Vedas' heart is content. Sukadev Muni didn't have answer to Devchandraji's question. When Devchandraji asked, then what shall I do? Then Sukadev Muni tells Devchandraji that, why don't you call on Sri Krishna, the preceptor, the creator of Ras Leela? Why don't you call him out? Because he definitely knows where he disappeared to, where he gone, where he went from Vrindavan. That is where the teachings of Bhagavata end. Because when Parikshit asked Sukadev Muni again and again to please continue with his story, Sukadev Muni could not, because it was not told by him. So the Bhagavata Discourse of after chapter 29 to 33, there is no explanation to why Sri Krishna disappeared or where he went after his disappearance. And that is where Tartam starts. The teachings of Mahamati Prananaji starts with the book of Ras, where all these things are explained. So Guruji Mahendra Maharaj often told us that it is Tartam begins where the teachings of the Vedic scriptures end. Tartam begins where the Shastras end, because the teachings of scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, end on the eternal sports of Ras with the disappearance of Sri Krishna, and the eternal teachings of Mahamati Prananaji begins with Ras. Dear Sundar Saji. So as Sukadevji suggests, Satguru Sri Devchandraji Maharaj begins calling out Sri Krishna, the form of Sri Krishna that partook in the eternal sport of Ras. After 14 years, in the year 1678 in Hindu calendar, in the month of Ashwin, in the 14th day of the lunar calendar on Sunday, when Devchandraji was listening to the Bhagavad Discourse, there was a heavy wind. It was all clouded. The dust was flowing everywhere. Everyone closed their eyes. Everyone closed his or her eyes. All the Bhagavata listeners, including Kanjivat. It felt dark during the day. And Devchandraji saw a divine light coming towards him. It was none other than Sri Krishna, the Lord Supreme. Vai Kisura Ati Sundara Surupa Khelajo Vrindavana Dekha Sri Devchandraji ne kaya Jai Sri Gavai Mama. Sri Krishna in ever radiant form appeared before Devchandraji. Ati Sundar, such a beautiful divine form of Sri Krishna. The form that participated in eternal Ras Leela. the divine, eternal Sri Krishna, came to Devchandra and began asking questions. Devchandraji greeted, bowed down to Sri Krishna. Such a glorious moment was coming. Then Sri Krishna asked these following questions. Tu kaun? Aayit kyun kara? Kahan hai tero vatan? Nar tu kaun khasham ki? Ye drida kara kaho vachan. Tu jagat hai ki need mein? Karke dekh vichar. Vida sari ya ki kaho in jimi ke prakar. So these 5 questions are called the questions of eternality. These are eternal questions. Tu kaun? The first question Sri Krishna asked Devchandraji are, who are you? Devchandraji is the name of his body. What is the identity of his soul? Who are you? Because my name is Santaporil, that is my name, that's the name of my body. Right? The belongings that I have are mine, that's not me. I'm not my body. I'm not my belongings. I'm not my identity. So, who am I? That is the identity of my soul, because of which I exist, the life force. Devchandraji is asked this first question, who are you? Tu kaun? Aayit kyun kara? Why did you come to this world? The second question. A lot of religious scriptures, be it Bible or Quran or the Vedic scriptures, and the followers of these religions talk about going to heaven. Right? And these heavens are given different names. In Vedic scriptures, they talk about Swarga, Vaikuntha, Brahmalok, and many other names. In Christianity, it is called heaven. In Quran, it is called Arsa Azim. There are different names given to the abode of the Lord. And in Hinduism, there are many deities, demigods. So there are different places of salvation according to the Vedic scriptures. If you look at different Vedic scriptures, there are different references to it. So, Lord Sri Krishna asked Devchandra, where did you come from? All the scriptures I was saying that refer to going back to heaven, going to Vaikuntha, going to Swargalok, going to all these places. Sri Krishna asked, where did you come from in the first place? Because if I'm coming from Vaikuntha and if I'm praying for heaven or Swarga, if it is not where I belong, regardless of how bountiful it is, I would not rejoice being there eternally. So the question Sri Krishna asked is, where did you come from in the first place? Aayita kyun kara? Second question, why did you come to this world? Third question, kahan hai tero vatan? Where is your original abode? Where have you been living eternally? Because this is not your abode, you are sent here to witness something. It is not our choice to come to this world. I didn't want to be, I didn't choose my parents. I didn't choose the country I was born. If I had a choice, I don't know if I would want something different, right? So where did you come to this world from? The third question. Fourth question. Nara tu kaun khashamaki? Who does your soul belong to? Who do you belong to? Is it Lord Shiva from Kailas? Is it Lord Vishnu from Vaikuntha? Is it Lord Narayana? Is it Omkar? Pranab Brahma? The chanting of Om? Is it the abode of Omkar? Who is it that your soul belongs to? Fourth question. The same question to other people that believe in other deities, other gods, or other divinities. Right? So fourth question was, who does your soul belong to? Who are you eternally related to? And the fifth question is, are you awakened or are you in the state of sleep? Tu jagata hai ki needam? The questions that were bugging Devchandraji for so many years, 35 years to be precise, and all those inquiries to all the religious saints and sages, 14 years of listening to the Bhagavad Discourse with loyalty, with discipline, with perseverance, Devchandraji tells Sri Krishna, मैं न पहचानो आपको नासुद अपनो घर पियो पहचान विनीदमे में जागत हूँ याप. Devchandraji Maharaj said, मैं न पहचानो आपको. I do not know who I am. After 35 years of penance, after 35 years of his pursuit, he still doesn't know who he is. Nasuda apano ghara, says Devchandra. I do not know where I came from. Which is my original abode? I do not know. I do not know if it is heaven, it is Vaikuntha, it is the loka of Omkara. I do not know if it is the loka of Akshara Brahma, infallible Brahma. I do not really know. Piyu pehchana bhi nahi dame. It feels as if you are my Lord, because you are giving me the darshana. You are coming with your divine vision to me. You should be the Lord Supreme, but I do not know anything about you. So it could be you that I've been looking for. I'm not really sure. I do not know where you live, where your original abode is, where you're coming from. I do not know anything about you. So all I'm guessing is you must be the Lord Supreme that I belong to. And this is the state of me. I do not know if I'm awakened or I'm in the state of sleep. Dear Sandarsansi, this is the inquiry. This is the understanding that the whole world is missing right now, to the present day. If we ask anyone, go around places and ask who you are, where did you come from, why did you come to this world in the first place, none would have an answer. Go to the world's most renowned Bhagavata scholars. Go to the pastors with hundreds of thousands of followers. They would not have answer to these questions. Go to the imams, the Muslim scholars. Why did you come to this world in the first place? Why did Allah send you to this world? What was the actual reason behind creation? You would not find answer. They would say, it is Allah who knows everything. It is Allah who has answer to these questions, not us. Devchandraji, after 35 years of pursuit, knows nothing. These 5 eternal questions still remain unanswered. So Devchandraji says, I do not know who I am, I do not know where I came from, I do not know the Lord Supreme or who you are. It seems like you are my Lord. You are the God I'm looking for, but I'm not really sure. And this is the state of my awakening. I do not know if I'm awakened, I'm still in the state of sleep. Then Lord Sri Krishna tells Devachandra, answers the question that he himself asked first, or the question that Devachandraji had all these years. So that would be the topic of discussion tomorrow.